Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive roadblock almost every researcher faces, taking your methodology from complete confusion to absolute crystal clear clarity. Let's just jump right in. I want to start right out of the gate with this incredibly powerful thought. Most students fail their research not because they're bad at writing, but because their hypothesis is completely wrong. Let that sink in for a second. It's a painful reality, right? You can have beautiful prose, incredible dedication, a mountain of data, but if your hypothesis is weak, the entire foundation just collapses.
So let me ask you, and be honest here, does your hypothesis look something like technology improves learning? You've probably written something exactly like that, felt pretty good about it, and thought it was a totally valid way to start your paper. Well, spoiler alert, it's not. In fact, it is a guaranteed path to a major research headache.
So why does a statement like that fail so miserably? It brings us to why your research fails. The vagueness trap.
Here's exactly what you might be experiencing right now. You're probably confusing a hypothesis with a research question, and hey, they are completely different beasts. Or maybe you have absolutely no idea what an IV or DV is, or at least how to separate them. And then there's writing those vague statements we just talked about. Writing a broad, sweeping statement without clear variables, that isn't forming a hypothesis. It's falling into a trap that derails the entire study before you've even collected a single data point.
But don't worry, because right now we're shifting gears to the core breakthrough concept.
Here is the golden rule, the definitive definition you literally need to memorize. A hypothesis is not a guess. Please, we've got to stop calling it an educated guess. It is an educated, testable prediction about what you expect to happen in a study, and it must be built from specific, clearly defined variables. Basically, if it's not measurable, it's not a hypothesis.
Now let's look at how these variables break down, because these are the two structural pillars of any hypothesis. First, we have the independent variable, or IV. This is what you, the researcher, change or manipulate. Then there's the dependent variable, or DV. This is what you measure. It literally depends on the IV. If you can clearly separate what you're changing from what you're measuring, honestly, you have already won half the battle.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? Welcome to the 4-step hypothesis formula.
Here is your roadmap, and each of these steps builds progressively on the last one. Step 1 is starting with a question. Step 2, identifying your variables. Step 3 is applying our golden formula. And Step 4 is finally building your testable hypotheses. Let's walk through this together.
All right, Step 1. Before you even think about writing a statement, you must always anchor your thought process with a focused research question. Think about this. Does studying longer improve exam scores? Notice how it's not a statement yet. It's just a focused inquiry. This is the seed that your hypothesis is going to grow from.
Let's move to Step 2 and see how this builds. We take that exact question and we extract the variables. What are we changing or looking at as the cause? Study time. So that's our independent variable. And what are we measuring as the outcome? Exam scores. That is our dependent variable. You see how clean that is?
Now for Step 3. And honestly, this is where the magic happens. We apply the formula. If you're independent variable, then you're dependent variable because of a specific reason. It's so simple, yet it's incredibly effective. You just plug in your variables to create a logical, testable statement. So it becomes, if students increase their study time, then their exam scores will improve because they have more time to understand the material. See? Action, reaction, and logical justification.
And finally, Step 4. When you're gearing up for statistical testing, you actually need to build two forms of your hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis, which we call H1, is what you actually expect to happen, like increasing study time leading to higher scores. But you also need the null hypothesis, H0. The null says there is absolutely no effect or relationship, like study time has zero effect on exam scores. You absolutely need both of these to do proper science.
Now, I'm going to hit the pause button on our formula for just a second, because we need to talk about avoiding fatal hypothesis mistakes.
Here is where most students completely mess up, and it totally ruins their papers. Number 1, being too vague. Saying technology helps learning is useless because it's not measurable. Number 2, having no variables. Saying students perform better just begs the question, better than what? Number 3, not testable. You can't claim students feel happier without a specific measurement scale. Number 4, no theoretical basis. Guys, a hypothesis without theory is literally just a random guess. And number 5, mismatch with method. If your method is just correlational, you absolutely cannot claim causation in your hypothesis. No way. This starkly illustrates the difference. Think about a bad hypothesis, like studying is good. I mean, what does good even mean? How do you measure good? Contrast that with a good hypothesis. Students who study more hours score higher. It is highly specific, it's measurable, and it's totally testable. This is the standard you really need to hold yourself to.
So, the crucial point is knowing how this all applies when it's time to actually crunch the numbers. Let's look at real-world hypothesis testing.
When you finally get to your statistics, this is what it looks like. mu1 equals mu2 for the null hypothesis. That means the mean of group 1 is exactly the same as group 2. There is no difference. Your alternative hypothesis might look like mu1 is greater than mu2, meaning a difference does exist. And here is the mind-bending, kind of surprising secret where most students struggle. As a researcher, your job isn't actually to prove you're right. In statistics, you test the null hypothesis directly to see if you can reject it. You're literally trying to prove that the no-effect idea is false. Your alternative hypothesis is only supported indirectly.
Let's use a really relatable end-to-end example just to show this entire framework in action. Step 1, our topic, the effect of social media use on academic performance. Step 2, our variables. Our independent variable is social media usage measured in hours per day. Our dependent variable is academic performance measured by GPA. Step 3, our null hypothesis. Social media usage has no significant effect on GPA. And step 4, our alternative hypothesis. Increased social media usage leads to a lower GPA among students. Boom! Clear, testable, perfect.
Now here's an advanced tip, especially for those of you doing larger thesis or dissertations. Your hypothesis shouldn't just be pulled out of thin air. It should directly translate from your conceptual framework. If your framework diagram has an arrow pointing from one concept to another, well, your hypothesis should be the exact, testable statement of that arrow. The framework shows the relationship, the hypothesis tests it.
Which brings us to the final, and undoubtedly the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. Design. Don't just write. Your hypothesis must perfectly align with 4 things: your research title, your research questions, your methodology, and your statistical test. If you tweak your hypothesis, you have to go back and check all 4 of those elements. Because if a hypothesis doesn't map flawlessly to your research design and your instruments, the entire study collapses due to inconsistency. You can't test for a specific GPA outcome if your survey only asks students if they, feel smart.
And that leads us to this massive aha moment. A hypothesis is not something you write, it's something you design. I really want you to feel empowered by this. Approach your research as an architect, not just a writer. You're engineering a testable prediction that perfectly fits the structure of your study. It has to be measurable with your instruments, testable with your analysis, and justified by established theory. When you actually design it, it won't fail you.
Okay, so we've gone from the vague trap of technology is good to engineering highly specific, statistically sound variables. But before you go, ask yourself this. What is the one crucial variable in your own topic that you've been overlooking that could completely change your study's outcome? If you want to continue mastering your research step by step, make sure to subscribe. Drop your research topic in the comments below, and I'll personally help you start building your perfect hypothesis. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy researching!